he thinks needs to be the way forward. Having all the actors in the streets, expanding the organization to form one formidable organization. But then, of course, Mkawasi states something which is really the core tenet of our constitution, that the revolution needs to remain as non-violent as it is, really. And that's actually the aspiration of Article 37 of the Constitution. And the Gen Z have done a very good job. And they've disarmed the powers that be, because then if people have just smartphones and have water, what then do you need to do? There's nothing much you can do. So the revolution, as much as it can, must always be non-violent, as anticipated under the Article 37 of the Constitution. But of course, again, she says, we need not be reactionary. We just need to be the revolutionaries that we are. And of course, that's the point, because then, government is already coming in. You can see from what General Buka you've said, that the president's people are now responding with the Ruto lessons. That shows you that the pressure is going on. So I'd really like to listen to what Tony Gashoka would like to say, because then we really need to see what is the next focus pressure point. How do we put more pressure so that they can put more hashtags as they want, but we shall not respond to the hashtags. They need to be responding to that which we're doing. Tony Gashoka, thanks.
Thank you very much, comrade. Let me start by, first of all, sending on my behalf and all our behalves, Paul, to all the people who are now being found dead in Nairobi. And only God knows how they met their death and in the numbers that they are. So as we also mourn our people on the streets, let's also send out Paul Sana to them. I want to start by talking about Article 4 of the Constitution. Article 4 of the Constitution is the Declaration of the Republic. It says in Article 4, subsection 1, Kenya is a sovereign republic. Subsection 2, the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democracy, a democratic state, founded on national values and principles of governance, which are referred to in Article 10. Why I'm bringing up this issue is because we have, over time, made this about Ruto must go, and that must remain our clarion call. But one of the reasons that this revolution has been successful, it began by occupying parliament. Because in creating a multi-party democracy, yes, you have an executive on the one hand, but you have an opposition on the other. Why much blood was shed in the 90s was because before 1990, Moi was governing Kenya as a dictatorship and a one-party state. So the 2010 constitution was just an advance of the previous removal of Section 2A that made Kenya a multi-party democracy. I raise Article 4 and the inherent right of the people of Kenya to have a government and have an opposition that holds the government of the day to account in order that the people have a better government. It is terrible and beyond disbelief that the Jay-Z generation had to come and do the work of the opposition. There is no country that can call itself a democratic state that will need its citizens who have elected them in order to hold the government to account, to subjugate that responsibility to the people. Why I raise this issue is because as today I want to talk in the strongest terms possible against Raila Odinga and the Azimio Party. The people who are now holding Ruto afloat in this ocean of despair is none other than Raila Amolo Odinga. And today I want to give a synopsis before I deal with Raila. And I
Hey, Marge, what is happening?
Did you lose Tony? Tony, did we lose you?
Can't even.
No, I think they're trying to mess up the network when Tony started mentioning Raila. Tony, can you hear us?
He's not even here. All right.
I mean, that's fine.
Deal with him.
Yeah. When Tony is out, I think I can chime in. Tony is there.
Okay, go ahead.
Tony is there. Probably can come back and finish his statement.
Okay. Marge, can you hear?
Yes, General, we can hear you. I mean, you're saying that You want to go ahead before Tony so that Tony comes afterwards, which is fine. General, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, it would have been good if his thoughts were not truncated, but it is what it is. I will start by condoling with the many families that have lost loved ones and the many families that have missed or people who have been disappeared. And I would want to caution us, all of us, that we should not buy into state propaganda. The media does not belong, the mainstream media does not belong to the people, the 54 million, 55 million Kenyans. So we do not have to rely on the mainstream media to validate the fact that we have missing people. We should not rely on the state to validate the numbers of those that they have killed. I want us to be careful not to fall into the trap of the state propaganda. That we must have quote-unquote families complaining about missed ones, missing people, before we can say that there are missing people. We have to appreciate that there are a lot of families that are not closely knit. There are a lot of young people that are not in contact with their families on a daily basis. There are a lot of young people that came from rural areas and are trying to struggle in the cities or urban centers, and their parents or their relatives do not necessarily have phones to reach them. And you cannot reach a dead person. You cannot reach a disappeared person. You cannot reach an abducted person. You cannot reach a person who is decomposing in a swamp, or people who may have been cremated. So let's not be so quick to dismiss information or leads that we receive from sources. Because when you are in war, the state will try to diminish the number of people they have killed, the number of people they have abducted. They will try to distort and provide misinformation. If we are so quick to attack one another when we are sharing information, and are so quick to fortify the propaganda by the state, then we have lost it. Then we are not part of the revolution. Our work as revolutionaries is to highlight the atrocities of the state, is to highlight the excesses of the state, is to trumpet our the values for which we are struggling. It's not to minimize our voices. It's not to fight one another. Number two, I want us to be careful of ownership of this movement or revolution. The revolution does not belong to anyone. It does not belong to any generation. It does not belong to any gender. It does not belong to any tribe. It does not belong to any party. It does not belong to any age group or group of friends. The struggle that Kenyans have been involved in against imperialism, against these puppets propped up by their controllers abroad, the IMF, the World Bank, the CIA, whatever, is a collective exercise. It's a collective movement. It's a collective revolution. If the Gen Zs and the millennials were the only ones on the street, they would not be able to succeed. We must support one another. We must make this a completely holistic and organic revolution. It must involve all age groups. In as much as the majority of the population are Gen Zs and the millennials are the ones that are mainly on the street, we cannot keep away. We cannot keep away because we are in Mombasa, we are in Kisumu, we are in New York, we are wherever. We have to remember that during the South African revolution against apartheid, during the movement against apartheid, most of the fighters were trained in Tanzania. They were not trained in South Africa. Their leaders were in London. They were not in Johannesburg. And so were all revolutionaries around the world. Lenin did not start his revolution to Russia from Russia. Marx never lived in Russia. Che Guevara was not a Cuban. We have to always remember that anytime these people bring atomization, parochialism, distortions and diversions, the moment they ask you, where are you? All these voices are NIS. Because why should it matter where we are? Why do you want me to declare where I am? Unless you are coming to abduct me. Why is that your interest? We have to resist all attempts to divert us. The third point I wanted to make. Ruto is weak. Ruto is cornered. And when I say Ruto, I mean the regime. The regime is weak. The regime is cornered. The regime is desperate. The regime does not have any more tricks. The trickery of so-called dissolving the cabinet is nothing but that, a trick. Because are you in control of who is going to appoint? No. Can you guarantee that the people is going to appoint would serve the public interest? No. Can you guarantee that these people will be qualified? No. Can you guarantee that these people will not loot public resources? No. Can you guarantee that these people will not perpetuate impunity? No. So then, why would you say that he has done anything? He has done absolutely nothing. And as we said, the problem starts at the top. As they say from where I was born, fish rots from the head. This fish is rotten. The rot was not at the cabinet level. The rot sits at State House. The rot chairs the cabinet. The rot is the commander-in-chief of the goons that are executing people on the street. The rot leads the looters that were distributing money every weekend in sacks. So therefore, if you don't replace the rot with all its miasma, whatever it is that you want to call it, it will regroup. It will grow again. And it will perpetuate a more vicious system of elimination, system of abduction, system of looting than the previous one. We cannot let Ruto escape now. As Buka correctly said, any attempt at dialogue, any attempt to blunt our attacks on the regime, any attempt to divert us, like ODM and the rest have been doing, is counter-revolutionary. Is an attempt to subvert, to sabotage the revolution. Is to try to abort it, like they have always done. This is what they did in 1969. This is what they did in 1992 when the Section 2A was repealed. This is what they did in 2002 after the defeat of Kibaki during the referendum. This is what they did in 2007 when we pinned Kibaki to the ground. This is what they did in 2017, 2018 when the NRM pinned Uhuru and Ruto to the ground. Raila came from behind and he had a handshake and he subverted everything. And this is what they're doing now. Without this historical context, you're doing absolutely nothing. We must understand this in its correct historical context. These people belong to one club. They belong to one class. They are oriented in the same political mind space. The only thing they understand is to exploit, is to loot, and is to oppress. So what do we need to do?
I was requesting if I could just, I'm leaving in 10 minutes. I had lost the mic. You might, if you could, as you are finishing, I could do, and you can come back on.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm finishing.
Thank you.
The scaremongering that there will be a vacuum if Ruto resigns with Gachagua and that the military will take over is nothing but scaremongering. These people know very well that when Ruto resigns, Gachagua will not take power because he will be going with Gachagua. We will be dissolving this government. And because the Gen Zs and the millennials and the revolutionaries have already rejected all the parties, Azimio will not come to replace them. This is the beauty of it. That this revolution is supposed to remove all of them in one fell swoop. So there will be no vacuum. The military will not interfere. They have never interfered. And they are not going to interfere. They have shown that from their presence on the streets. So let no one scare us that the military will take over. And this movement is more mature than the movement in the Sudan. That was a military dictatorship being replaced by people who had not even tried to fight against that dictatorship. So they got hijacked. This will not happen in Kenya. We are too sophisticated. We are ideologically rooted. And when I say we, I mean all of us from all generations, including Gen Zs and the millennials. We are not going to leave anybody out because this country belongs to all of us. So let no one lie to us or deceive us that they can come out of this. We have to remove them. Let's make Tuesday the 16th huge until they will just take the helicopters or wherever to wherever they are going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General.
Yes.
Thank you very much, General. And because Tony is leaving, Tony, just go ahead so that at least you save your time before you can then come back for the comments. Thanks, Tony.
Right. So I was saying that in order to go ahead, but you have to read Article 4 of the Constitution and hold to account the opposition as much as you hold the government. And the next time we have this change, we must know that we elected a bad executive and we elected a bad opposition. They have failed at their job, and therefore they are making the people have to do their work for them. But now, in order now to know the pressure point for Zakayo, you must understand his history. Now, William Ruto initially, when he was only 26, became the co-founder of the organization of the organizing secretary of the infamous Youth for KANU 92. That was a lobby group that was key upon looting the economy of Kenya then, but also used to fund terror groups that intimidated those that were not with Moi or what was called as the Nyayo era. This is when, by the way, Ruto began to accumulate skills of terror and wealth accumulation. And in fact, at that time, people will remember the Moi regime would not hesitate to detain without trial, abductions, and murder. So the blueprints or the architecture of the KANU regime, where William Ruto began his politics, is the architecture that he's practicing today. Kenyans forget and need to be reminded, particularly the Jay-Z, that in 2011, William Ruto, who had been suspended as Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology over integrity issues by Mwai Kibaki, was summoned to appear on the 8th of March at the ICC at The Hague, charged with crimes on the post-election violence in Kenya. It's important to understand why William Ruto went to The Hague and what were the charges. The charges that William Ruto faced at the ICC when he was arraigned were crimes against humanity, murder, deportation, and the forcible transfer of a population and their persecution. And William Ruto did not go to The Hague for nothing. William Ruto went to The Hague for something. But what will fascinate Kenyans is who actually asked The Hague to drag William Ruto there. It was ODM. The Orange Democratic Movement Secretary General, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, when I was press secretary to Raila Odinga during the 90s, is the one who wrote a letter to the prosecutor at The Hague asking and detailing the crimes committed by William Samoei Ruto, that Ruto cannot escape charges of the crimes against humanity. I find it the height of hypocrisy that Raila Odinga, who sent Ruto to the Hague for crimes against Kenyans, crimes against humanity, is a man who wants to remove William Ruto from the ocean where he's sinking. I'm raising this issue because the way forward and the pressure points that are here is that you must take William Ruto and Raila Odinga as siblings. You must take them as one. Because it seems today that all the other organs, including the cabinet, have gone. And the only thing and the only man holding Zakayo in office is Raila Amolo Odinga. I want to be as clear as possible. The only person holding Zakayo to office over the promise of dialogue and a government of national unity is no other than Raila Amolo Odinga. So I want to be very clear today to Agwambo. And I want him to know that this is not General Miguna, because Miguna knows how to deal with you in a better way than me. But I know you, Raila. And I know your history with William Ruto.
But
and what you're doing to this country,
if you want to address Raila Amolo Odinga on a personal note, I think that you can do directly even on your handle. We accept that you're bringing in...
Marge, I think you should let him finish.
Yes, but we know, because even...
No, Raila is bigger than a person, right?
Yes.
When he says Raila, we know what it means. So
Dr. Miguna, please, kindly just allow us to host the space. What I'm trying to say is that we do not want to have personal attacks. We do not want to be used to address other people. If he is here to mention the things that like he had done before, it was okay to say this and this, and I'm not trying to censor you. I'm just trying to say personal messages to other people, they can be sent out there. People can use their...
Marge, let Tony finish his message.
Yes, he's going to finish, but we want to really, I want to underline that that this is not a space to do that. Tony, over to you.
In order to say that what I'm saying is correct, Kenya found a BBI bill that was championed by Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. The High Court, in fact, 5 judges of the High Court, found under Article 257 that the matter was not people-driven. Justice Joel Ngugi of the High Court, Justice George Oguda, Justice Nyaga, Justice Madheka, and so forth. So I'm telling Marge that what I'm discussing about a people-driven matter has gone before the courts. BBI was stopped because it did not have or seek public participation. I'm a journalist who understands very clearly the rules of journalism are that opinion is free, but facts are sacred. And I saw a press conference where the ODM and later Raila Odinga said that they want to have dialogue and a discussion with Zakayo on behalf of the people of Kenya, that they are going to convene. And what the BBI ruling said, the president or Raila could not initiate the people-driven